On today's adventure and experimentation, we're going to make some tallow candles. I wanted to do a combination of all tallow or tallow paraffin and tallow beeswax. Started out weighing my jars and I put in as much liquid as I wanted to have in there for the candle wax, wrote that down, and I'm going to cut that in half. Half of it's going to be, for the first candle, be beeswax and the other half will be tallow. You want to use the double boil system for this. You also want to be very careful about what kind of fragrances you're using. Don't use your kitchen extracts. These have alcohol in them. That's not good in open flames. You want them to say that they are good for soaps or candle making, just like these here. You also want to look out for anything that says avoid flames, because obviously you don't want to use that in a candle. Same thing goes for any kind of dyes. You want them to be specific for candles. Do not use the stuff that you use in your pantry for kitchen cooking, because any of those could be dangerous around open flame. You'll want to dip your wicks into your candle wax, the solid wax part, before you put any tallow in it. Now I'm going to mix my tallow up, and I did I went with a brown color because I'm using sandalwood, but for some reason I just didn't catch that on camera. Sorry about that, guys. But there's my sandalwood. Now you want to connect your wick to the bottom of the glass jar. You can use super glue, or in my case I just use the wax. You'll pour this over, and we're going to set this aside and start on the paraffin wax side of things. And same thing, I'm going to cut the amount in half. Half of it will be paraffin wax, the other half will be tallow. And again, into the double boil system, you want to melt everything together. Add any of the fragrances that you want, any of the coloring you want. You can see I'm dipping the wick back in, sticking it directly in the jar, getting that all connected. Keep in mind the colors that you use are going to lighten up. So if you want these colors to be very dark, you want to put in a lot of the coloring. And then I did the same thing, just filled the jars up, and then moved on to the all tallow candle, which obviously you just needed to melt that and pour that directly in. Now, per the instructions in the book, you want to wait about 30 minutes and then poke holes in this, refill those holes because air gaps form. Well, I like to experiment, so let's find out what happens if we don't follow the instructions. After 2 hours, you can see that it has started to cave in exactly like the book said would happen. Same thing happened with so that was the paraffin, this is the beeswax, but the tallow one looks perfectly normal. You'll trim your wick down to about a quarter of an inch. I went a little bit too tall on a couple of these, and I started burning them at 4, and I did 30-minute intervals for the first day for just about 2 hours. And you can see the tunneling starting to happen. It's worse with the beeswax, better with paraffin, and not at all with the tallow. And sorry about switching the colors up on you. I know that's kind of annoying, but here we are at 6:30 that night. Blew them out, and the next day I did it again and burned them for about an hour. So here's what I've gathered. The tallow candle is doing really well. It's not burning dirty like what I've heard, but that could be because of how many times it was rendered, as well as the quality of the suet that I got. It is burning very evenly as it goes down. This one was the beeswax candle, and immediately it began to burrow, creating a tunnel. Now, the tunnel is probably my fault because I wanted to see what would happen if I did not poke around like the instructions said to do, releasing the air bubbles. So what's happening is every 2 hours or so, I'm having to go around with the lighter and melt the wax around the sides in order for it to burn evenly. But it is also burning pretty clean. It also seems to be lasting, so far, the longest out of the 3. The paraffin wax and tallow combination. It's burning a little bit more evenly than the beeswax, but not as even as the all tallow. It too began to tunnel, but not as close quartered as the beeswax. But the same thing takes effect. I'm having to go through every 2 hours or so and melt the outside so that it doesn't continue to tunnel straight down. All 3 of them are burning very clean. There's no black soot. There's nothing that's coming up from them. There's no foul odors. I put fragrance in these 2. As well as colorant, and I left the 100% tallow completely alone. There are different types of beeswax. I went as natural as I could find. The smell from the beeswax is also pretty, it's not pungent, but it doesn't, I don't smell the fragrance I put in here. With the paraffin wax, I do smell the fragrance I put in. There's nothing overpowering, but I think in a case of an emergency, the tallow is still going to be the best bet because it's easily available. If you're hunting or if you have meat in your house, you can easily get that tallow extracted from it. And it, like I said, it's burning more evenly than the other 2. It is burning faster than the other 2. And I think after burning for a total of, what are we looking at, 5 hours here? I think at the end of the lifespan of these, by the time the tallow is all the way gone, I think I'll probably still have half to a quarter of the other 2 left. I'll continue to burn them just to test that theory out. And my next candles that I make, I'm going to poke the holes like they wanted us to do and make extra wax to top it off. Other than that, I think it was a pretty successful experiment, and I'm very happy with these. I like using the canning jars specifically for this reason, because they are used to high temperatures in the pressure canners, and you have lids for them. So when the candles are not in use, you can just put the lids on and put them in someplace safe. I hope this gives you some encouragement and maybe lights a little fire of your own, make you want to test some theories out for yourself or try this all. I'm pretty excited. I think they came out great. But we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.